Hello, welcome to Wednesday's ESPN FC Live. Mark Donaldson, Don Hutchison with me for this one. We're going to be talking Premier League, looking ahead to the weekend, and a midweek card in La Liga, plus plenty other things to discuss with Don. Let's start in the Premier League, Don, in England, and that game between Arsenal and Manchester City. Given the way that City got a point, scored early, and basically shut up shop, Arsenal getting 1 point when originally they would have hoped to get 3. Has that changed your mind about whether or not we have a two-horse race, Liverpool and Arsenal, or whether we have more than a two-horse race for the Premier League title?
No, I think Arsenal and City will put up a very good fight. I thought most of the noise from the pundits and the fans focused a little bit too much on Arsenal. Maybe it's because they were the home side and you expect them to do a little bit more or be a little bit more aggressive on the front foot and try and win the game with the team selection. But it told us a lot about Man City when he took Erling Haaland off with 20 minutes to go, trying to protect the 1-0 lead. That's something very unlike a Guardiola team or anything that Guardiola's done in the past. He's normally, we're winning 1-0, let's get the second, the third, and let's go on and dominate the game. He went right back on the back foot because he respected the firepower and the quality that Arsenal have got. So it told us a lot about City fighting for that point while they're playing away from home. Arsenal, I think they could have done more. I think especially because of the home side. I could understand it when they went to Anfield, trying to play for a draw and thinking that was a valuable point, even though they didn't get it with that Szoboszlai worldy free kick. But at home against City, I would like to ask Arteta, why didn't you start your best players? Because he's had a little bit of fun with a journalist today saying, I might put the handbrake on in the cup this week. Well, he had the handbrake on a little bit by his team selection. So I think he could have done a little bit more.
Yeah, 3 defensive midfielders to start with until he introduced a bit more of an attacking threat. I talk about maybe a two-horse race. Do we even have two-horse race? If it's different tiers, is it Liverpool and then clear gap to the rest? Or would you have Liverpool kind of top tier and Arsenal maybe just sneaking in there? Or are they not even at that level, in your opinion?
Oh, they're at the level. Arsenal are definitely at the level. And I even think Man City are at the level to a certain degree. I still think Liverpool will win the league. You can't say 5 games in that Liverpool are going to dominate. I think they've got Chelsea in a few weeks' time. They've got Palace this weekend coming up, which is a tough fixture. No, Ekitike, he's now banned for that game after the ridiculous second yellow card for taking his shirt off in the cup against Southampton last night. So Liverpool should still have enough to beat Crystal Palace. If they do, then Arsenal have got the pressure on because they face Newcastle at St James's Park, which is a really intense fixture for them and a fixture that they've not done too well in. So I'd back Newcastle to take points off Arsenal. So everyone's looking around at Liverpool thinking, when are they going to drop points? I don't think it'll be this weekend. So as it stands, Arsenal and City are in it. I do think come Christmas and just after that, one of them will definitely fall away. And I think that might be Man City.
Palace taking on Liverpool this weekend. It's the match between the only 2 unbeaten sides in the Premier League. Liverpool with a 100% record. Palace 2 wins and 3 draws. What do you make of Palace and what kind of threat are they for Liverpool this weekend? Because they lost Olise and still won the FA Cup. They've now lost Eze, but they've kept Guehi. So what can we expect for them against Liverpool? Because sitting back and defending isn't really their modus operandi.
No, they are one of the best teams, and it's an old school sort of pattern or a phrase, if you like, but they run really hard. Everyone talks about the technical ability of footballers these days, but you've still got to have that ability as a team to run hard, and they do it. Wharton's a fantastic footballer. He'll go whenever it might be for over £100 million. Depends on who you like. Will Hughes, whether he's starting or come off the bench, runs hard for the team. Munoz, right wing back, runs hard for the team. Tyrick Mitchell on the left-hand side runs hard for the team. They've got a great work ethic. They stick together, and they've got a defender in Guehi who's just oozing class. Every time you see him, and I've been privileged enough to watch him over the last 2 or 3 years, but he seems to be getting more self-confident. He's now got the armband. He obviously got linked with that move to Liverpool, and you can see, I think it's made him grow as a player. He looks more confident. He's very vocal. He's a definite leader. So Liverpool have to be on their A game. It's not a fixture where you can turn up Selhurst Park in that atmosphere and think, well, we'll have a nice little day of football. We'll get the ball down in minute 1 and we'll stroke it around and we'll have too much quality. They're going to have to earn the right to play, and earn the right for the first 20 minutes means running just as hard as Crystal Palace.
28th of November, 1992. Liverpool 5, Crystal Palace 0. I don't think it'll be as one-sided as that. Stevie Nicol was the Liverpool captain. What else happened that day?
Ooh, tell me.
You scored.
Ah, good memory.
Clearly, it was memorable.
When you get to my age, mate, you're searching back and you're thinking, what goals did I score in? What's cropped up on my Instagram and X feed? Oh, this time last year I scored the winner.
Nicol is your captain
ago.
as well. Yeah, it's not going to be 5-0, but I just thought I'd just
Well,
massage that ego of yours.
Well, Mark, I commed on the 7-0 in COVID. Liverpool went and beat them 7.
I think there was a 9-0 as well that
Was there a 9?
Stevie played in. Yeah, and that was way back. But Palace are a side that will cause problems for Liverpool. You spoke about the other game, and this is on the Sunday. We're going to preview a few others. Newcastle against Arsenal. When will we start to see the Newcastle that Eddie Howe wants to see, and how do Arsenal approach this game at St James's Park? Because this has been a tough start to the Premier League season for Arsenal.
That is a brilliant question on how Arsenal approach the game, because they've tried to fight fire with fire and it's not worked, because Newcastle at home, they can beat anyone. That's the best atmosphere. If you're an American or anyone around the world thinking about taking a Premier League game, there's iconic stadiums like Old Trafford and Anfield. But if you want atmosphere and you want, and I say this very loosely, a hostile atmosphere to go and watch a game of football in, go and watch Newcastle at St James's Park. And this game, there's an edge there. There's always been an edge over the last 3 or 4 years now with Eddie Howe and Mikel Arteta. It'll be a brilliant atmosphere. So how he approaches it, he'll have to say to his team, again, you're going to have to earn the right to play. You can't just get the ball down, but you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to scrap, because that's what Newcastle will do. So you're going to have to match them. You're going to have to play minutes, as in, it might not be pretty for 10 minutes, but match their fight. 20 minutes, you might get a little bit of joy and a little bit of territory and maybe some momentum. After that, then you've got to try and show your quality. The best example, I think, if Mikel Arteta wants to show his Arsenal team a tape, look at the second half of what Barcelona done to Newcastle. Newcastle should have been out of sight in the Champions League in the first 20 minutes, should have been 2-0 up. Then the brain power of Barca took over. I thought De Jong and Pedri, especially in the second half, they put their clever hats on and their brain heads on and got the ball and popped little 1-2s and took the sting out of the crowd and made Newcastle's midfield players run. So that'll be, I think, the method for Mikel Arteta to try and adopt, is how quickly can you get the ball down and show your quality. But Newcastle are not going to be an easy team to try and beat, especially at St James. As I said, honestly, when you watch Newcastle at home, they can beat anyone.
Yeah, they can, and they're a great side to watch, and that's a good fixture. Full reaction on ESPN FC on Sunday on the final whistle. Now, going back to Saturday, Chelsea against Brighton. I spoke with a few people from ESPN FC on these hits, and no one can predict Brighton. So it's not a surprise. Chelsea could win, it could be a draw, Brighton could win. No result is a surprise. The question I've got for you is, how did Chelsea manage Cole Palmer, right? Because he's come out after the game, the coach, Maresca, and he said, look, this is something we've been trying to manage probably since the Club World Cup. It's a groin problem. He wants to play, but he only lasted 20 minutes. This isn't going to go away, but you can get injections. So how do you manage, if you're Chelsea, your best player's ongoing injury?
I think you've got to take the hit. And I think you've got to say to the player and the medical team, right, we need to drop him and I say drop him, I mean leave him out for a couple of weeks and get the problem fixed and solved, whether it's surgery, whether it's an injection, whether it's just time, whether it's treatment. Well, I've had hernias in the past, and I don't think it's a hernia, but groin problem, same sort of area. And you can't really run them off. You can't shake them off. So only time and treatment does the trick. It works. But I think when you try and manage it, as in like, oh, we'll play him for an hour or we'll play him for 45 minutes, it doesn't solve the problem. It just makes it worse. So at some point, they're going to have to maybe look at a schedule of fixtures and think, right, is it after this weekend? Is he fit enough to do 45 or an hour against Brighton, try and get the result? Or is the fixtures after that a little bit too hectic and a little bit too chaotic? Or the fixtures that I've got coming up for Chelsea are too strong? But there's going to be a point where they're going to have to say, right, we need to give him whatever the timescale might be. It might be 2 weeks, might be a month, whatever it might be. But to keep this going for as long as you possibly can, hoping the problem's going to get fixed, it will never get fixed. So that's, I think, what Chelsea got to look at. They're going to look at the schedule, look at the fixtures and say, right, at what point can we give the kid a rest?
Tottenham Hotspur have got the prime fixture that everybody seems to want right now. The side at the bottom of the table, it's Wolves, who've lost all 5, and they've got them at home. We're taking your questions as well, and one of them is, at what stage as a player do you kind of feel, your side might be in the title race? I'm not saying it with regards to Spurs, but they find themselves joint second right now after a decent start to the season. Will their players be kind of believing and thinking, you know what, new manager, we've started well, we've got Champions League to come, Wolves this weekend, let's just see how many points we can get?
Yeah, they won't be thinking of winning the league. That Tottenham dressing room will not be thinking, right, we're sitting second top, or we're only 5 points behind Liverpool, or if we win a game and they lose one, we're in the title race. They were there, same sort of position under Ange, and they fell away. Even Thomas Frank would probably say, and Thomas Frank's quite optimistic, he'd probably sit there and say, yeah, let's enjoy it. Let's go for the ride, enjoy the ride, and why not? And the players should do the same thing. But in their heart of hearts, they're not at Liverpool's level. They're not at Arsenal or City's level just yet, but they're making strides. What you can do is you can keep churning out the wins, and you can keep winning in the Champions League. It gives you momentum. It gives you confidence. And another 3 points at the weekend, you would imagine, is pretty much guaranteed against the poor Wolves side. Thomas Frank would be telling these players, fans as well. I think Thomas Frank's sort of one of these guys where he'll say, he's not one of these where he'll say, oh, we're not in it, like, don't be silly. He'll say, listen, we're in it. Like, we're in it. Just let's keep the momentum up. Let's keep the feel-good factor up. Let's enjoy the ride. When we fall out of it, we'll fall out of it. But for now, while we're in it and the points gap, it is what it is, let's just stay in that race and just try and scrap and fight and play for every single point. They're not in it. We know that. But, you need to keep that optimism and the feel-good factor.
Early game on Saturday. I don't know where we go with this. Brentford against Man United. We've got no idea what to expect. United have got Brentford away, then Sunderland at home before they have to go to Anfield. But I don't know how many people thought they would beat Chelsea, which they did, but they're just as likely to lose to Brentford as they are to beat one of the top sides. How do they get this consistency back, Manchester United? Yeah,
the context of that was obviously Robert Sanchez getting sent off inside 5 or 10 minutes. That definitely helped, when Chelsea went down to 10 men. If this was a Thomas Frank Brentford, I'd be back in Brentford all day long to turn over Man United, because, that's a Thomas Frank team that were brilliant at home, could change systems, another team that ran hard and they mixed their tactics up, whether it was getting the ball down and playing. But I think under the new coach, I think they're lacking that little bit of identity. They're stuck in the sort of Thomas Frank way or trying to play a different style of football. That's why I think Man United can get a result. I think they probably will go there and get a result, and that'll be good news for the guy that's grown his hair until Man United win 5 games in his row, because his Barnett's about 10 feet tall at the minute, so he's in with a shout. It's amazing. So I actually give Man United fans a sniff of winning this game. As I said, it's a different team than Thomas Frank's team. So, yeah, they've got to take the good bits from the Chelsea game, which, to be fair, there were some good bits from the game. The football was good. They scored good goals. The atmosphere was brilliant because the conditions were absolutely rotten. But they showed a different side to them. And another context is 10 men, but they still ran hard and they still put the work rate in and put the miles in. That'll please the Man United fans.
Before we get into the La Liga midweek action, had some good questions today from our viewers, and they're to do with Don and when you were a player. A couple here. Was there ever a fixture in your career you just weren't up for it? You're just like, and how did you get yourself to the mindset you needed to get to play the game?
Do you know what? Every pro's got a couple of games where you just had nightmares. Mine was Coventry, Highfield Road. Another one was the old Dell, Southampton.
Why?
And I can remember one famous story was when Graham Souness was the manager of Liverpool, and we went to Coventry, and they had Robert Rosario and Mickey Quinn, 2 good centre forwards, but not like elite level. Mickey Quinn was elite when he was at Newcastle in the 80s, bagging, 1 million goals there. But I think he was like 36, 37 at the time, and our team was sort of quite stacked. And Suey gives us a team talk where he basically rubbished the whole Coventry side and said we should win this game and not give them no respect. But, we're Liverpool. We come here to win, trample all over them. 5-0, I think the score was, or 5-1, right, standard. I was on the bench. Jamie Redknapp got sent off. And Graham Souness turned around to me and went, "Hutchie, get you warmed up. You're going on." And I've gone, "Yeah." And he went, "Get warmed up." And he whispered in my ear, he went, "Do someone, make sure you 2-foot someone and start a brawl. I want to chin Gordon Strachan." because Gordon Strachan was the commentary manager. Graham had just lost his head, and Gordon was a terrific wind-up merchant.
Wow.
But the fact that we went there and the team talk was like, these are useless. We'll walk all over these. We are Liverpool. They are Carve. And I think the scoreline was 5-0 or 5-1. We got battered.
Another one was, there ever any clubs you played against outside of the big clubs that gave you trouble? We've spoken about Chelsea taking on Brighton, Brentford against Man United. Not a big team, but a team that you just thought, oh gosh, it's them this week. I've got a rubbish record against them.
No, I think my rubbish. I mean, I've probably got a few against the great Man United sides. Everyone has, especially at Old Trafford. But yeah, I think mine came from, as I said, when you're playing in these fixtures, when you play like Southampton down at Dell or Coventry, and they're like not difficult games to get up for, but you're expected to win, and the adrenaline's like not there. Like every pro will tell you, when a big game comes around, like Arsenal, Man City last weekend, the manager needs the players need no team talk whatsoever because the adrenaline is in the players. That's what we want as players. We want the England-Scotland games. You want England-Germany games. You want Liverpool-Everton games. You want the very biggest of fixtures where the adrenaline is like pumping in your veins and you don't need a team talk, but you just can't wait to get out there. The other fixtures, when you're playing against the teams that are in the bottom 4 or 5 and you're expected to win, or you're playing in League Cup games. I mean, something flashed up on my social media a couple of days ago when I made one of my debuts for Liverpool and we played Chesterfield in the League Cup in a 4-4 draw against Chesterfield. It was nuts. So those are the games you just find it really hard to get up for.
Well, you have to. I mean, look at Man United going to Grimsby, losing. Look at Chelsea last night going to Lincoln, finding themselves a goal down. It's the old hard work and ability. And if one doesn't work and the other one does, then it's possible to have a surprise. Let's move into La Liga. We've spoken in the Premier League about Liverpool's 100% start. And after a 4-1 win at Levante on the east coast of Spain in Valencia, it's Real Madrid that find themselves top of the table. They've only played 6 games. Are they clearly the best side? Or is it Barcelona, the defending champions, who play tomorrow, that in your eyes are still the title favourites?
No, I think this is 50-50. I think the El Clásicos are going to decide where La Liga goes. I think both of them could be unbeaten for a long time. They're both unbeaten. As you said, Real Madrid are flawless. Barca have only sort of drew one game but won the rest, and they've got a game in hand. So these two teams are very superior. I don't know what your take is on Real Madrid and the way Kylian Mbappe has conducted himself this season, because he looks now like a real leader to me. I think Kylian Mbappe, when he was young and he started to mature, was the sort of player where he had the ego, and why not when you're as good as him, but he sort of flaunted it a little bit too much and had too much of a swagger about him. Now I watch him and I think, right, you look like a real mature leader and you are leading your side now. So I think when you look at them and you watch both of them when they're flowing, I think they're two brilliant sides to watch. They're clearly, it doesn't take a genius to work out, the two best teams in La Liga, but trying to decide a title race right here, right now, I think is difficult. That's why I think it's going to go down at the El Clásicos. Whoever comes out on top in those fixtures, I think wins the league.
Well, it's been Barca, certainly last season, that were on top of that. Real Madrid on this right-hand side have kind of had an issue since Carvajal picked up his injury. We've got this young kid now who was among the goal scorers yesterday, Mastantuono, who just looks very special. And what is it about these young kids, whether it's Lamine Yamal at Barcelona or whether it's Mastantuono at Real Madrid, they come in and they believe they belong despite the fact they're still so young?
It's a great question. I think that's why the game's moved on a long time since I played, because when you're a youngster getting in the team, you come in for a cup game, and then the pressure was on to try and play. When you're a young player, you think, right, when I get my opportunity, there's every chance I'm playing in a cup game where there's nothing really on it, but we've still got enough quality to win. You feel as though I've got to score a couple of goals, especially if you play at the top end of the pitch. I've got to be brilliant because there's guys sitting on the bench or there's guys sitting in the stand that are definitely going to take my place at the weekend. What you're looking at now is you're looking at kids that are media trained. You're looking at kids that are super confident. You're looking at kids that are training with the first team. You're looking at kids that are getting so much information off their managers or different coaches from 19s, 20s, 21s into reserve team football. There's so much information for them. They feel as though they're good enough. They're told they're good enough, not just, in for a game or two. And they seem fearless. It's amazing to watch these young kids, whether it's at Barca or Real Madrid, playing. When you put those shirts on, we've seen 100 or thousands of players over the decades that crumble when you put a Barca shirt on or a Real Madrid shirt on. It's too heavy sometimes. These kids now that are playing are just absolutely fearless, and it's brilliant to watch. It's great to watch young kids wearing a Real Madrid and Barca shirt thinking, I'm the main man, I can do it, and I'm going to do it. It's fascinating.
Arda Güler's only 20. Now, he started at Levante. Jude Bellingham back again off the bench. That's a couple of substitute appearances we've seen for him. The first one was just a few minutes. This one was nearly 20 minutes. Is that a straight swap, or is Bellingham just going to have to bide his time? Because right now, the coach has got a decision to make, and that, hey, if it ain't broke, then you're going to have to wait your time, and I ain't going to need to fix it right now.
I think that's the mark of a fantastic manager. You know, having the ability and the power and the confidence to say to whoever it might be, if it's Jude, right, you're going to have to fight your way back into the team. I'm going to pick a side this weekend. We've seen it with Vinny Jude.
One or two issues with Don's Bluetooth connection, I think. Otherwise, he's a master at keeping very, very still.
Didn't feature.
So, this is, yes. How's your connection, Don? I think his connection might be struggling a little bit here. Atletico Madrid. I'll pick this up until we get Don back, because I've got their commentary later today against Rayo Vallecano. And it was Rayo, incidentally, that were the only team this season to take points off Barcelona in La Liga in a 1-1 draw. Atleti on day one went to Espanyol and went a goal up. Brilliant free kick from Julian Alvarez, but then lost the game by 2-1. And they've struggled a little bit. They drew at home to Alaves. They got back to winning ways against Villarreal. Then they went to Mallorca at the weekend and couldn't get all 3 points. So this is what's known in the business as padding. I believe and can see that Don's back. So this is a long way round of setting you up to say, is it simply Barca and Real Madrid, or can Atleti put a poor start to the season behind them and get back to winning ways and go on that run last season, which saw them win 15 in a row and get back into the title race?
I don't think they can. I don't think they can. I think Barca and Real Madrid are too strong, and I think for the first time, not the first time, we've seen it. I think with Simeone, he has a little wobble, or the team has a wobble. He's been there an awful long time, so it's a case of a lot of the players hearing the same information, the same training. It might need a complete refresh, but as far as Atleti being in the title race from here, I just don't see it. I don't see the levels. I know there was 1 or 2 injuries at Liverpool and they put up a good fight, but it looked like a weak side to me. It doesn't look like the strongest side. And I think they've lost that identity that they had, I think probably from about 5-6 years ago, when they were like the masters of keeping clean sheets and the best back line and goalkeeper that were hard to beat. I think you're looking at a side that looks a little bit disjointed. I think they look at a team and a club at the moment that are in major transition, and you cannot afford in La Liga to give Barca and Real Madrid any sort of start. So it's a 2-horse race for me. And I think Simeone's got some problems to solve.
Brilliant. I'm going to sell that one well to the viewers today on ESPN Plus. Atleti against Rayo. Barcelona in action tomorrow at the Carlos Tartiere. Now, Oviedo's a brilliant story. 2001 was the last time they were in the top flight, and they nearly disbanded. Our very own Sid Lowe from ESPN FC was very helpful and integral in keeping them amidst other supporters afloat. And now they're finally back, along with Santi Cazorla, in the top flight. They've got no chance against Barca, though, have they?
No, I can't see it. Can you? I can't see it. Barca are too strong. Their style of football doesn't suit. The way they can mix the game up. They've got pace on the wings. They've got guys in midfield that can take the game away in terms of possession and quality from any team. I just see a Barca win. I just think they're too strong. I watched the Newcastle game as it unfolded live. I watched it back again, and I just marvel over the likes of Pedri. Paul Scholes, I think, went on social media and said he's his new favourite footballer. I think they're too good, mate.
What about Barcelona? I was reading today on ESPNFC.com about Marcus Rashford. They're not going to make any swift decision. They like what they have, but they're not going to say to him, right, now we want to keep you. come the end of the season. The likelihood is they will. He just has to make sure he's not late for any more team meetings. But what does Marcus Rashford add to this Barcelona squad, predominantly from coming off the bench, but as a squad player when they need him?
Well, he brings quality. He brings competition for places, apart from the ability that he's got to score goals and run in behind, and his pace and his trickery. You would have thought, and we like to do this in the modern world, you like to think when you're writing down Barca's top team and their best 11, he probably wouldn't get in it. But I don't think the majority of teams now have got a top 11. I think that it's a squad game. It's even more of a squad game than it's ever been. He proved his quality against Newcastle with a headed goal and the strike that he scored from distance. I've seen him do that for Man City in a Manchester derby when he rifled it from about 30 yards. But he just gives Hansi Flick that ability to rest anyone. He gives Hansi Flick that ability, if anyone's suspended or carrying an injury, to play Marcus Rashford. Also, at the same time, why would you dive into giving him the contract now? Because you want to see Marcus Rashford prove himself, not just over the one piece. I think Craig Burley said it well the other day when we were on the show, the FC show, and he went, whoa, slow down a little bit. He's had one good game. You want to see that over a period. You want to see him being consistent. And if he proves his worth, because you can't just do it on one game and say, hand out, give me a new contract, please, Gaffer and club. You've got to be consistent. So I think he offers Barcelona quite a bit.
Just finally, is there one unsung hero about Barcelona? Say their front six, the 3-0 victory that they had over Getafe at the weekend. Ferran Torres got 2, Lewandowski in the middle, and Rafinha. They've all had a fair bit of praise. But Dani Olmo also scored, Frankie de Jong as the kind of holder, and Pedri was in there. Who would you say, you take one of those out of that team, and they're probably the most important to that six that play for Barcelona? Who would it be?
That is very difficult, but one player I think deserves a huge amount of credit. I think it's Frankie de Jong, because he's a guy that I think Barca tried to ship out the back door quietly 2 years ago. They wanted rid. Yeah, they wanted rid. They were pulling levers everywhere, trying to get different players in. He seemed to be the one that they wanted to sacrifice, and I never saw it. As in, I always saw Frankie de Jong being the best player, because he's a brainy footballer, he's a clever footballer. He can pick up different positions, but he controls the rhythm and the tempo of the game. When we talk Pedris and these Yamals and fantastic players, and rightly so we should, don't overlook how good Frankie de Jong is, because if he come on the open market and he had 3 or 4 or 5 years left on his contract, he'd be worth 100 million quid. It's like Arne Slot talking about all these, Florian Wirtz over 100 million quid and Alexander Isak 100 million quid. And Arne Slot made a great point. He went, if I was to buy Dominic Szoboszlai now on the open market, it cost me 100 million quid. That's what I sort of and always saw in Frankie de Jong. So I think it's him. I think we mentioned the Yamals and Pedris and Rafinhas because they're great players, and Lewandowski's rightly so. But I think the answer to that question, in my eyes, I think it's Frankie de Jong. I love watching him.
Yeah, it's a decent front six. And then once Lamine Yamal gets back from injury and goes straight into the side, they really do have some goal threat. Barcelona and Real Madrid, a 2-horse race in Spain, according to Don Hutchison. And in England, it's Liverpool, Arsenal, and maybe Manchester City. We're early in the season. There's still plenty to go. I'm away to try and find something positive to say about Atletico Madrid, because Don Hutchison was unable to do so. Enjoy the rest of your day, boys and girls. And reminder, ESPN FC tonight on ESPN+. Bye for now.